Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Welcome back, everybody, to Verify in Field. Today, we have special guest Brad Cairns with us. So Brad Cairns is a fellow podcast host. He has his own podcast and also is an inventor, entrepreneur, founder of multiple companies that we're going to hear all about today. So thanks for joining me, Brad.
Well, thanks for having me. We tripped on each other on LinkedIn there somehow, some way. And next thing you know, here we are.
Yeah, you're a busy guy. And yeah, I knew eventually we'd cross paths, and it's great to get a chance to talk finally. So if you don't mind, maybe to start with, can you just give us a little bit of your background for our listeners and how you got to where you're at today? Founder of Stolbeck Machines, My Door Factory, Quantum Lean, Kaizenify, the list goes on.
Canadian Ornamental Ironworks.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna try and make it real short, but it all started for me. I mean, I've been a woodworker since I was born. I have pictures of me as a kid trying to build stuff, and then I started my first company when I was 16. And we did it the hard way for about 20 to 30 years after that, believe it or not. Just beating our head against the wall, trying to figure out, like, woodworking cannot be this difficult. Like, why are we struggling so much? And then I came across this book called The Toyota Way. And it was just like I couldn't believe what I was reading. Like, there was another way to run a business that wasn't just total chaos. So I put that book on repeat probably for about 10 years, honest to goodness. Bet I've been through it 300 times and combined with now a million other, 2-second lean being up there, the lean turnaround, like all these books. And so we went down what we call our lean journey with the woodworking company. And to say that was a game changer, that the word's overused, like nothing short of radical. And then everything has been sort of built on that. So we discovered lean. I read it. I studied it. I tried to figure it out. I got it, but I couldn't figure out, how do I get it across to my people? How do I get everybody participating in this thing? And I tried for 5 years and I couldn't figure it out. And so we ended up hiring a lean consultant, and his name was Jim Lewis, and he came in and just like blew the doors off of what we were doing. He was an older gentleman, and I'll never forget, we're walking through the shop and he's looking at all the piles of material, and we were kind of showing off, like, oh, here's nice stacks of this and that and the other thing. And he looks at me and he goes, so are you guys, are you making wine here? And I thought to myself, oh my God, he's insane. Like, I hired this old guy that's losing his marbles. And I'm like, what do you mean, are we making wine? And he goes, well, it looks like you're aging all your parts. And that was it, man. I knew we had the right guy. Once I saw how he got it across to the people, that was it. We were off and running. Just to give you an idea, we went from 5 finished cabinets a day to 55 finished cabinets a day with the same 4 people. I still haven't been to a shop yet that produces 55 boxes a day with 4 people, or 110 with 8 people. Usually you get to 80, 90 boxes a day, you've got 50, 60 people. So that was amazing. And I would have helped anyone. I'd talk to anyone. I'd go to any shop. And I'd always keep Jim in the loop, right? I'd be like, Jim, we did this at this other shop. We did this at this shop. And one day Jim calls me and he's like, Brad, I'm going to retire. I was like, awesome. See you on the golf course. And he goes, but I want you to take over the consulting company. So I said no. He said yes. I said no. He said yes. I said no. He said yes. I said yes. Next week I was in Texas helping my first customer. So that was the beginning of, we took over the Center for Lean Learning, rebranded it as Quantum Lean, and then spent the next 15 years teaching people lean manufacturing. All the while, we have the woodworking company at home, which we switched from commercial millwork. We did everything. I've done everything. Residential, display cabinetry, museum stuff, commercial millwork, residential, like you name it. We've done it all. And so we had switched from commercial millwork to just cabinet door manufacturing. And we had a real problem in the cabinet door manufacturing business, which was the sanding is just out of control. There's so much sanding, you could hardly believe it. And we had, at one time, we had like 12 people sanding primer. And oh my God, I couldn't even make eye contact with them. I'd walk by like kind of like, oh, hi, good morning, you know, and they just got their masks on with the dust everywhere. And so we ended up betting the farm, remortgaged everything I owned to try and solve this problem just for us. And so we ended up building a robot to do the sanding for us. And of course, because of our lean background, our robot is designed with single piece flow in mind. So it is the leanest solution in terms of sanding, because sanding really lends itself to single piece flow. And it took us 2.5 years, but we got it working. And I'll never forget, we had it running in the factory, and it was like the first couple days it was up and running. And I looked at my CFO and he looked at me and he thought, I think we're going to have to tell people about this one. And we put it on YouTube, and the rest is history. We're 4 years later, we're Stolbeck Machines. We have robots all over North America. We're shipping to Ireland, UK, Australia. So because of lean, it saved my woodworking company. Because of lean, we invented a lean machine, and then to evolve into Kaizenify, what happened there was every lean customer that we went to work with, or every customer who wanted to go lean, they were just clueless on how to measure their operation, and we wanted to get quick wins for them. So we wanted to immediately see like a Kanban system. We wanted to immediately see SOPs. We wanted to immediately get a training matrix. We want immediate production timer. We want immediate metrics of your pieces per day, throughput dollars per hour, minutes per piece, all of these things. And it took so long to set up that we're like, listen, we had to fix this problem. And then so we just created a software solution that we can have your dashboard up and running in 1 day now. So if we're going on site to help a customer, the first thing we do is populate this dashboard and say, now we know where you're at. Now let's make some improvements. So, and here I am. And then I found you on LinkedIn, and my life has just gotten better ever since I met you. So let's keep it going.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that rundown. So, you started with the woodworking business, which led you to the lean consultant, which led you to lean consulting with other customers, right? And through that journey, you've evolved your original core business and developed Stolbeck Machine. The initial invention there was the sanding robot. You now have Kaizenify, which is a software. So multiple ventures. Can you tell us a little bit about today? How do you manage all these ventures, and where do you spend where does Brad spend most of his time?
So here's the advice. This is a do as I say, not as I do scenario. If someone asked me for a piece of advice when it comes to business, I would say focus. And how can a guy with, these four entities talk about focus? But I can literally pinpoint on a daily basis where each business could be better if I got rid of the other three. My problem is I don't want to, because they're all so much fun, so
Yeah.
So we're having fun. I've got a great team, that is probably the key to success there is. And for a long time I was afraid to hire those like C-suite people. And especially as a small manufacturer, like when we were just doing doors, we were maybe like $1 million, and to hire someone at those higher wages is very nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the best thing I ever did was I hired one lady, Lori, bless her heart. She came on board, and she took over all of our HR, a ton of our admin, and it was just like boom. I was like, oh. All these people I was afraid to hire are the ones that are propelling the business. And so now I don't hesitate for those big people. You know, we've got Lori doing our HR, I've got Craig on our as our CFO, we've got Ryan as our systems integrator. Um, and it just seems like every time I hire someone I can't afford, the business grows again.
I think that's an interesting concept because a lot of people who are new to lean and new to this, you would think your instinct is those are at odds with each other. Hiring people, adding people to your team, and becoming lean and reducing labor, right? How do you reconcile those, and how would you kind of explain that to people who are still trying early in their journey of lean?
Well, I mean, early in your journey of lean, I wouldn't suggest um, running out and just hiring a, a whole C-suite team of people, because at that point, I think it's more about getting yourself convinced. So step number one is you as the owner, you have to be sold on this. There can't be, well, I'm gonna get my manager to do this lean thing. Instant failure. Just
Right.
don't do it. It's just you're gonna waste your time. You're gonna frustrate your people. So you have to be totally convinced. Then your leadership team has to be totally convinced. And then we can start rolling it out very slowly out onto the shop floor where everybody can start to feel it and they can start to get some wins under their belt. They can start to see that their job is easier. And despite most owners doing things because they want an ROI, lean is really like, the saying is easier, better, faster, cheaper. So, and it's in that order. So you set out to make everyone's job easier. You never, ever, ever go out onto the shop floor and say, oh, hey, we want to make more pieces. That is literally the worst thing you could say to somebody in the shop, because that's not interesting to them, right? But if you make their job easier as the focus, well, then they have a few more minutes every day to go into better. So I've made your job easier. Now you've got some extra time, so quality goes up. And then when quality goes up, you're not doing rework, so you're making things faster. And then as you're making things faster, you can decide your cost is going to become cheaper. So as long as you do it in that order, easier, better, faster, cheaper, and all you have to focus on it easier, the rest will happen all by itself. So the big takeaway there is just make everyone's job easier. And they already know how to do it. Just go ask them, hey, what can I do to make your job easier? You'll have a landslide of ideas. Your problem will actually be figuring out which ones to implement, not what should we do next.
Right. Awesome. So, obviously everything you do today, right? You have my door factory, right? You've got the manufacturing business, you have Stolbeck Machines, you have Quantum Lean, you're taking what you've learned in your business, right? And your multiple ventures. And it seems like each of those things of, hey, you or your team or your business has encountered a problem or an obstacle or something that you figured out how to solve has led to, hey, how do I share this and how do I apply this to others in the industry, right?
100%.
And that whole evolution has been there. So what are some of those key things? You've given us a couple examples, but is there anything else that has shaped your business approach that you use every day or reference when you're consulting with clients?
100%. There is a few like really big keys to, you know, well, anyway, I can speak for myself, to our success as a business. And the first one is solve some problems. Don't just be another whatever widget maker. Like, you got to solve a real problem. Like, we don't make a CNC router because 900 other people already make a CNC router. We're in a class of one with our business because even the other guys trying sanding solutions have not figured out single piece flow yet. Thank goodness. I'm sure they'll watch enough of our videos that they'll get it sooner or later. But so long as they're putting more than one part on their machine, we're going to destroy them every day. So you've got to solve a real problem. And so how do we do that? So an example from our door company is, how do we solve a problem? So all we do is try and put ourselves in the customer's shoes. So if you're a cabinet business or a millwork or whatever, what we did was I literally just followed our delivery truck and I stood in the doorway of our customer and I watched. And I just watched all of the things that our customer had to do when our product got to their shop. Most people in their mind is thinking, well, as soon as we ship it, we're done with it. They forgot, it's on the truck. See you later. Well, you want to see how far into your customer's business can you penetrate without adding cost. So we watched a skid have to get unloaded from a truck with a forklift. They had to bring it inside. Then they had to go looking for a pump truck. Then they find the pump truck, put the skid somewhere. Then they have to unwrap the skid. Then they have to take all of that garbage and put the garbage into a garbage bin. And then they have to destack that skid into whatever they're using, some sort of cart or something, count them, quantify them, make sure they're right, and then they go into some kind of a sanding process, and then finally into the customer's finishing room. Now, that's normal. Like that is every shipment from everywhere. But we looked at that and said, how many of those things can we do? And so we looked at, hey, they're putting their doors into a cart before it goes to their, like after the skid, after they destack the skid. And we thought, well, we're just stacking them on a skid and they're unstacking them. This is total waste of motion. So all we did was put the doors in the cart. Then we saw the sanding operation. Like, we don't want our customers sanding. We want our customers building cabinets and finishing and making money. So we took on all of the sanding. So now our doors get put into a cart at our shop, transported in the same cart, rolled off the truck, no forklift, no pump truck, right into the customer's finishing room, because we also computer check every order that it's complete and the right size. So you can see we've taken that huge, long, normal process and we've gotten rid of 80% of what the customer has to deal with. As long as you can do that, like look for those opportunities and they're there. I mean, you just watch any process for 15 minutes and you're going to see the waste. Even as I was just saying it out loud to you, I'm sure everybody listening was going, oh my God, that's so painful.
Yeah, but as normal. And that's what your competition at that point, if you had just accepted, hey, we're going to go to the same finish line as everybody else, but no, we're going to look for opportunity to add more value to our customers.
Yeah. So sorry. So just to summarize, because that was a long, convoluted story. I'm sorry. I love to talk. The thing is, what can you do that your customer has to do to your product without adding cost and solve a problem? That's
right.
Those are my takeaways.
So being an entrepreneur, being an inventor, being a problem solver, really, how do you think about, hey, I've got a new problem to solve. Is there something already in the marketplace versus something that needs to be created? Like, how do you balance the decision of, am I going to invent a new software, a new machine, a new thing, or is there something I can adapt? Because like you said, you don't make CNCs, but kind of you do. Right. And so how do you balance those decisions? Because I know that's something that most business owners struggle with is, hey, there's not something that's just right on the marketplace. Can I one, have input into making that product better for what I need, or do I just start from scratch?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. We first, I guess we're fortunate in that we have a manufacturing company. Most people that build machines, probably almost all, don't. So they're testing their stuff on their customers. We're not. We test it on ourselves. And so we always are just looking to solve a problem. And then we shop, and if I can buy the solution and it already exists, I'm just going to buy it. Literally every machine we have, our edge sander, our glue machine, our press, they all exist only because they're not out there. So I mean, who am I? But I would avoid things that are already being done unless you can add some value to it that other people haven't thought of, like solving what your customers are struggling with, on their end. Can you take that and make that struggle go away?
That being said, do you have instances or examples where you've thought, hey, there's an opportunity here, or I've gone down a path of inventing something and then said, hey, actually there's this thing on the market, or maybe this doesn't make sense now. Like, do you keep a wish list of
Yeah,
things like, I'd love to invent this, but we're focused on this now?
dude, that happens like 6 times a day for me. I have this idea and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best idea ever. And I Google it and I'm like, man, someone thought of it already. So yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. And, like for your audience, I presume you're mostly in the cabinet space, millwork, that kind of thing. So rather than inventing something, because if I'm a millwork shop, maybe I have a solution. If you have an idea for a machine that you want, but you don't have time to develop it, send it to us. We'll give you 5% for the rest of your life on it. We're kind of in that space where we're developing our customers' ideas at this point. But some of the most powerful things we did just as a strictly woodworking company that really like had a huge impact for us was go find a machine shop and make friends with them, like a tool and die shop. Go find a welding shop and make friends with them, and go find a sign shop and make friends with them. Those three industries at your fingertips will you'll save you'll save so much money when you realize that a tool and die shop can make the parts you need for your machines. When a machine breaks, we had a tool and die shop right across the street. I would literally walk across the street with a broken part in my hand and say, hey Madden, can you make this for me? And in one day I would have the piece, usually at a tenth of the cost. And then a welding shop, some of the best things that we have in our shop are all fixtures and stuff that are all welded together, made out of steel, powder coated, look professional. And then a sign shop, because everybody's like scratching on cardboard and putting their stuff up all over the shop, and it kind of just looks like the dog's breakfast. Where when you go on, like if you come here for a plant tour, you go to Fast Cap or Yellow Tools, it's always these beautiful signs and everything. It's not hard to do. Like a sign shop will whip you that stuff up in no time at almost, it's cheap. So those
Yeah.
those three people are key if you got a woodworking company.
And I think those are great examples of, resources that exist, because I find that a lot of people in the woodworking industry are, one, by necessity, do-it-yourselfers, right?
Totally.
And so a lot of times we're hesitant to reach out to somebody else, another trade or another professional, because one, a lot of guys, okay, well, I have a welder, I can weld, or I can do some basic machining, or I can print a sign or whatever. But I think a lot of people don't think, or they're hesitant to take on the cost of like, hey, let me go to a professional that this is what they do, make a relationship to use them as a resource. And so, I mean, I think this kind of is very much in line with the idea of, okay, once you get organized, hiring a C-suite, hiring people that specialize in the task that you need them to do and delegating that. And that's just the same for outsourcing a task as it is for hiring somebody internally, right?
And you talk about hiring. So my first hire, if I had to do it all over again, my first hire would be my lean coordinator, my lean advocate. Like, who's going to be there with me by my side, learning everything and making sure it gets out to the troops? Because, as the owner, I can't be out there every day, but somebody needs to be out there every day. So that is one position that is not talked about in any of the books. I don't know why. It's almost like people are holding that to their chest, but like, yeah, every lean company that I know that's operating at a high level has that one guy who's just super smart, gets it, making improvements all day long. That would be my first hire.
your designated champion for lean, you know, or
100%.
some places might have a manufacturing engineer, they call it, or somebody that is their focus, their core responsibility is making sure that everything we're doing is lean and efficient.
Yes, and that has to be their job. Can't be
Okay.
can't be your production manager is going to be the lean guy too. Like, it is a dedicated job, and they will be busy when you start to figure it out.
So let's talk a little bit more about Quantum Lean, right? So Quantum Lean is your company that specifically focuses on consulting with other manufacturers and clients, right, on lean. Talk about that process. You mentioned, before, the first thing you do is go in and set up Kaizenify, and you can have their dashboard. Can you tell me about, how does Quantum Lean engage with clients? What does that process look like from the client's perspective?
This is a great question, and the first thing I'm going to say on the subject is, you as the owner of the company have to be sold on this idea. Like, there's a million lean consultants out there, but please don't even call us if you're not sold. Like, we'll sniff it out in 5 seconds and we'll just hang up on you. It's not like,
Yeah,
that is the most paramount thing. And then what we do, like a typical, engagement would be, we are trying very hard to get fired. A lot of consultants are trying to extend their stay for as long as they can. I hate the word consultant. Maybe, like, I'm just fortunate is like, I'm busy enough, so I don't need, I'm more interested in getting people going and seeing them succeed, and then I just get the heck out of the way, because that's how it was done for me. So
right.
we want to go, we want to engage with someone, we want to get on site, we want to understand what they're doing, we want to train all their people so that all their people have an idea of what we're talking about. We're not just these, one or two lean maniacs running around with their hair on fire. So everybody understands what we're talking about. And we have a little lean roadmap that we like to follow for people. But then you just start getting into, like, the easy tools that give you, like, good big visual wins. Like, we launch a 3S or 5S program. We make sure everybody's doing their morning meetings. This is the number one skipped thing that cannot be replaced. Like, that is everything. Your morning meeting is where your culture starts getting built, where your team starts coming together, where you share improvements, and people think, oh, I can do a meeting once a week. And I say to everybody, it's like going to the gym. Like, what happens when you go to the gym once a month? Nothing. Once a week, almost nothing. You're a little bit sore. That's about it. But until you have it happening every single day, then that's when the benefits come. So we want to launch those, and getting your SOPs done. We want to get those three things really underway quickly. And then once everybody's in the groove, then we start looking at, okay, now how do we create flow? Because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's what everybody's in it for, right? Oh, I want to see more stuff going through my factory. It's just really hard to come out of the gate with flow, because it's so counterintuitive. When I tell you it's faster to make things one at a time than it is to make them in batches of whatever, 100, you immediately think I'm insane. So
Right.
we gotta build up to that point. But once you see it working, it's like magic.
So obviously through that, a big part I imagine now is Kaizenify, right? Like that, this came out of your personal journey. I imagine also a lot out of your Quantum Lean consulting. Tell us about Kaizenify.
Well, that one was easy. Like, because at our door company, we're pretty crazy about lean. We're doing this, and we know the metrics we need. We found that there's 4 key metrics that woodworkers need that none of us are doing, because we're all looking at our income statement, trying to figure out if we're making money or not. And that income statement is 45 days old. Well, if you're telling a guy on the shop floor to make improvements, I can't remember what I did 45 days ago. I just can't. So we need relevant data for the shop floor. And we were doing this at my door factory which is really funny to say because it's also called My Door Factory. That's the name of the company. And so we had this dashboard built, and we built it in Google, and had all the numbers coming in from everywhere. And it was just so convoluted to manage, but it worked, and we needed the data. And then it was like, wait, we want to set this up for all our customers. So we start setting it up when we're on site, and we're killing 1, 2, 3 days just to get their dashboard running. And I'm like, yeah, this is no good. We got to fix that. So now we created Kaizenify, which we can get you your metrics and your dashboard, and plus your SOPs, Kanban cards, production timer, basically all the tools you need to really jumpstart your lean journey. And I can show you what it looks like if you want.
Yeah.
Why not? We're here.
So this is a web app, I think, right?
Yeah, it's a website. It runs from your phone. Okay. So the first tool here that everybody needs desperately is what we call an over the line chart. We learned this, 5 years ago, and this is the best tool we've ever seen for measuring any business. And so basically the top line here is your break even line. The angled line is your burn rate of cash. And then the blue bar is your throughput that you post every day. So at a glance, you can see, oh, look, if this was my company, I'd be like, on December, whatever, I need my glasses, 16th, we're $3,000 short. And I know that today. I'm not waiting 45 days to know that. So we can make changes tomorrow. And then this also is a powerful tool for calculating a bonus system, which is already built into Kaizenify. If you want a bonus system, it's all programmable in here. And as soon as you get over the break-even line, the projected bonus appears here. So your whole team can kind of get in that ownership thinking. And we go down to here, your throughput dollars per labor hour. This is the red squiggly line is your blended average, and then the green line is your actual posts every day. This is the best measurement in the world for calculating your decisions. Like, did I buy the right machine? You'll see if you watch your moving average on your throughput dollars, you'll see that number will creep up. Or if you hire someone, that number should creep up. Elsewise, maybe you made a bad decision. If it goes down, you might want to reverse that. So basically, this one's a great decision checker. If you made a big improvement or changed your flow, it will appear here within 1 day, not 45 days later. Then we go here.
So can you,
yeah.
A couple of terms you're using, I want to make sure our audience understands. So like, can you define throughput? What are you measuring here that is called throughput?
That's such a good question, and I always forget that. So a throughput dollar is basically the dollars you have left to get that project through your system after you take out the material. So if I'm building a millwork job or a kitchen or something, and it's $10,000, I pull out the material, and that's $4,000. I have $6,000 throughput dollars left to get the job out. And that's what we're posting here. Because if you're posting with sales dollars and you have a quarter sawn, rift cut, white oak kitchen, and it's the exact same kitchen, but the customer wanted paint grade poplar and they don't want you to finish it, it's the exact same amount of effort for your shop. But the materials will skew your measurements hugely on that. So we got to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's kind of revenue with materials were subtracted out.
Correct. And those are all the numbers we're posting. Then we go down here, your minutes per piece. So this is what you want for your feedback loop for your estimating department. Almost no one knows exactly to the minute how long they've spent building something. We do. And we give you this data instantly. And then your pieces per day. This is important to monitor for your incoming orders, to balance them with your outgoing throughput so that your tack time is balanced with your production time. A lot of people count pieces per day in terms of like their financial goals, and this is a big mistake because it can be skewed with labor. So you don't want. Go ahead.
Well, I was just, going to ask. So everything in that app, so you set it up, and this is real data that they're putting into this app somehow. You said you can get your clients set up, usually on day one with this. Can you talk about like who's putting that data in and how and when?
Yeah. So every day at the end of the day, we only need 4 pieces of data to generate all of those charts. And so the first piece of data would come from, we also have a production timer in that software that we want you running at the end of your line. And so you're going to get your pieces per day off your production timer. You're going to get the number of hours you put in the system that day through your payroll software. And if you don't have payroll software, we're not filing our taxes by these numbers. We're making shop floor decisions. So if you had 8 people on the shop floor and you work 8 hours, 64, done. It doesn't matter if it's 62.8 or it's not important. So it's just,
Right.
you just put in your time, and then every day along with the production timer, it's giving you your pieces per day, or if you're custom, you're tracking points, and then that gets translated onto your throughput graph. So we really, it takes about 5 seconds at the end of every day to pop in that data in the settings screen, and boom, all your dashboards appear.
And so, can you talk a little bit about, because I imagine a lot of times people, are either there's people in your clients' organizations that are probably skeptical of this, going in, or like, well, this is extra work, or what is this going to tell us? Or we already know our data, but I imagine there's a lot of surprises people have once they start looking at this data and in this way. Can you talk about that kind of like that journey for customers? Like they start seeing this, what changes?
Oh my God. It's like, imagine flying an airplane with one gauge that says you're flying. You would crash instantly, because you need to
Right.
know how fast you're going. You need to know what direction you're going. You need to know your vertical speed. You need to know your heading, and a business is exactly the same way. If we're just looking at our income statement and pulling out, or overhead cost or labor cost or net profit, those measurements mean nothing to your shop floor. I mean, less than nothing. So unless they see, when I put effort in, this is what happens. The old saying, tell me how you measure me, I'll tell you how I behave. So
Right.
when you start to see these measurements and they're relevant and you can act, it is staggering to see what happens, because people now have the flexibility to experiment. One of my favorite sayings from Henry Ford, he says, run the experiment. So if you want to know, hey, does something work? Like, I try not to get involved anymore. I tell my team, hey, yeah, oh, sounds good, even if I think it's crazy, because if you shut down the idea, they're not going to try again. So I would rather they tried it, they watch the throughput dollars per labor hour, they see that it goes down. Yeah, it cost me a few bucks, but they learned, and they're not afraid to experiment. So then they're like, ooh, it's going down, let's go back and let's come up with another idea and try again, and another idea and try again. And when you have that data, without it, your experiments are like gut feeling. Hey, did that feel faster? Did you like it better? Like, yeah, feeling good is nice, but I'd like the numbers to back it up.
Right. So that gives you, where all your clients, when they start adopting this, you implement it day one, that gives you kind of a level playing field. Hey, we're all speaking the same language. We're looking at the same data that's specific to you, and we have something going forward to trust. So we've talked about Kaizenify, we talked about Quantum Lean, we talked about My Door Factory. All of this is really, you're making a sizable impact on the industry through your learnings, right? And how can you give back? And recently you started your own podcast, right? And I imagine that is just another vehicle to kind of share, just like this, right? Share with the industry what you're learning, things like that. Can you talk about your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. And you nailed it. You like took the beginning of my my speech exactly, is that we, and I say we out of habit, like I personally, along with my team who's been with me for a while, we have done woodworking the hard way for so long. I have lost so much money I can't even, when I think about it, I'm sick. That's how much money I lost. Like people will say, well, I couldn't afford to be a doctor or a lawyer. Try being a woodworker.
Yeah.
It's cost me millions to get to where we are. And we did so much of it the hard way. So for us, it's like, hey, we figured it out, and we want to share that with people. And if I can if I can just help people, like, oh, I can't even tell you what it does to my soul. Like me personally, like I don't do a whole lot of the consulting, you know, for me anymore. Like I don't go to site anymore unless it's something we got a really uh, good feeling about, or it's like I have some personal connection or something. Lynn handles most of that. She's my partner at Quantum Lean, and quite frankly, she's probably better than me at this point. But to be able to make an impact on an industry that I know is struggling, it feels really good. That's, you know, and then maybe, if we can help guys who have smaller operations, and we can help them get to a point where automation is the answer for them, and we're in that space still at that time, great, maybe they'll think of us. But the the real challenge is just getting cabinet makers who were me out of that rut.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And
We
I
put
think
out
that's,
tons of it, like our YouTube channel. We put out, this is like probably 50% of all my time right now is just spent out putting content out there. And every once in a while I'll get a message that says thanks, and it just makes it all worth it. Really does.
can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on just the future of the woodworking industry? Where do you see, opportunities for growth, innovation in our industry in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Man, I used to think everything was invented already until we got into the product development space. And now we literally have a Trello board with 500 more machines on it that need to be built. Like I could, if I had a infinite dollars, I mean, so there's no question that there's room for innovation. The big one for me, and probably for most of your listeners, is the automation. Like, and I gotta, I should get different hats made so you can know that I put my lean hat on when I'm talking. But if I could share a quick story about one of my biggest regrets at the door company, is we didn't automate soon enough. And so business ebbs and flows, right? You're going to be busy, and then you're going to be slow, and then you're going to be busy, and then you're going to be slow. And for as long as I've been alive in this industry, there's never a perfect month where it's just like exactly how many orders you need, exactly shipping what you need. Like it's always pulling your hair out, working overtime, or trying to figure out what to do with guys sweeping the floor. And so what my biggest regret is that 5 years ago, I didn't automate enough, because what would happen to us now is 5 years later, all of my automation would be paid for. So for the amount of robotics we're putting into our company right now, by the end of 2025, like wait for the videos. Like you're not going to believe what this factory looks like. And if I would have done that 5 years ago, they would all be paid for right now. So as soon as business started to get slow, I would just put on a sale, and I would I would suck in orders from my competition based on price alone. My margin would go down, but not enough to affect us. And we could maintain that custom, or not that custom, but that constant flow of orders. And then when business picked back up, then sales over, and so we would be the ones where work is flowing in and out because we automated enough, and we didn't do it soon enough. So, I would encourage all the woodworkers, like, we are literal 100 years behind the times in woodworking. Like we're still cutting with table saws. That's 1800 technology. Go to an automotive plant. It's
Yeah.
a different world. So, my advice to everybody would be, what doesn't matter what process it is, take your painful processes and really start figuring out how to automate, really start even looking at your front end. And there's lots of websites, Zapier, all these things that can help you automate your front end. Like as people get more expensive and harder to find, this is going to be the number one thing that separates companies, from the successful from the not successful. And as far as where the industry is going, I hope one day we can charge what plumbers charge. I think it's crazy. We have to have $5 million in tools to charge $60 an hour. I could have bought a van and a wrench and charged 120. But I do hope that that's going to, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. Like, how many guys were like me who got out of commercial millwork because, contractors lie, and I hate them all equally, even if they're listening, I'm sorry. And so we just got out of the business altogether. But you can only do that for so long until the demand comes back on to them. And at that point, my advice to everybody's going to be raise your prices, boys. Make some money.
Yep. On the flip side, what do you think that's going to stay constant in our industry that, that's going to continue to be essential and stay the same?
Oh, man, I think that one thing that I've learned this year, I think maybe in the last 2 years, but there's a lot of people out there with money. And so tapping into those customers, like we as woodworkers, we tend to value things the way we see them, in terms of, like, I can't imagine spending $100,000 on a kitchen, but I was just hanging out with one of our lean customers in Miami, and he was building this veneer wall panel, looked good, and I've been estimating for a long time, so I'm a pretty good estimator. And I was like, hey, that looks like a $50,000 wall. And he looked at me and laughed. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, $250. So, this is the, like, we've got to realize that there's customers out there that do have the money. We got to charge what it's worth. The custom stuff will always be there because it's hard to import that. Although if you watch any of my videos, you'll quickly learn the disdain I have for custom work. But that's the stuff that's going to be around. You just have to make sure you're charging for it. Like, racing to the bottom is just a tough business.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Brad, I appreciate you taking so much time to share about all your journey, what you've learned in your businesses, and what you're doing to make an impact on our industry. For anybody that's interested in finding out more about Brad, about any of your businesses, how they can get help from Quantum Lean, what's the best way for them to find out more?
Oh, man, you can find me all over the place on the internet if you want to know that, or we're dying to know where everybody comes from. So if you heard this podcast and you want to reach out to me, just send a text, ductwork, to 519-494-2883. That's my number. I usually answer. If not, shoot me a text and I'll get back to you, and we can, find out if there's anything that we can do to help you or point you in a direction that will help you.
Awesome. We will make sure to put that in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, you should be able to go down and shoot Brad a text. And once again, thanks for coming on. And I will be on your podcast as well. So if you're listening to this and you haven't, you probably should be able to go over to Brad's podcast with the shop floor, right?
Yeah, it's called On the Shop Floor. And it's you can find that on YouTube and Spotify.
And go over there and listen. He's got many episodes out that is a great learning experience and an insight into much deeper dive of all that Brad does. So thank you again, Brad.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to do it again one day.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Until next time.
See you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.